Barty and Novak Djokovic have had a hell of a tennis season this year. More recently, they've been honored with some major tennis awards and have pretty much knocked it out of the park. The future seems bright for these two, as 2022 seems to be one of their most promising years yet. Let's take a look at some major news in tennis. What honor did they receive? The ITF just held their annual end-of-year awards for the first time since 2019, and with the 2020 ceremony being canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Barty had been the ITF female world champion for the 2019 tour, and this year, she had one of her best performances to date. She won a total of 5 titles this year, which included her second Grand Slam singles in Wimbledon. She was recently named the Player of the Year by the Women's Tennis Association, and now she's also been named the ITF World Champion for the second year in a row. Seems like there's really no stopping Barty's reign. As for the men's side, we have Novak Djokovic. Novak, too, has had an incredible year so far. He won 3 Grand Slams this year at the French Open, the Australian Open, and at Wimbledon. He also won a Grand Slam at the US Open, but barely lost out on that opportunity as well. It was no shock that the ITF named him their male world champion this year. But did you know this is his 7th world championship in a row? Novak Djokovic is, without a doubt, one of the most gifted tennis players in history. He doesn't seem to be slowing down one bit. Murray versus Cameron postponed. The Battle of the Brits was one of the most highly anticipated matchups of the year. The best player in Scotland up against the best player in England. What's not to love? The match was initially set to take place on December 21 and 22 respectively, but things aren't looking too good for it now. The UK has seen a steady rise in COVID-19 cases, and with the Omicron variant renewing some of our fears about the virus, tournament director Jamie Murray decided it would be best to postpone the match to another time in 2022. He said that the difficult decision is a disappointment to all the organizers and fans, but it was done with the fans' health in mind. Tennis training in Aberdeen, Scotland, where the match was scheduled to take place, had already been put on hold a while back, so it was only a matter of time because the exhibition match itself was cancelled as well. This cancelling has given a lot of fans flashbacks of the 2020 tennis season overall, where most matches, regardless of country, were cancelled. We certainly hope that it's not the case next year as well. Will Djokovic appear at the Australian Open? Djokovic's likelihood of appearing at the 2022 Australian Open hangs on a thread. Australia has one of the strictest entry policies in the world, and with the new variant, there are doubts that anyone will be able to get into the country. This begs the question, will Djokovic even be able to make it to the Australian Open this year? He managed to appear last year, but the situation wasn't as tense as it is right now. Djokovic is not vaccinated, and he doesn't plan on getting the vaccine either. This makes it a million times more difficult for him to receive clearance to play in Australia. Djokovic has applied for a medical exemption for the vaccine, but he hasn't exactly made it clear on what medical grounds does he need that exemption. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has already shut down all plans on treating Djokovic differently from other players when it comes to the vaccine, saying all players need to get the vaccine, whether they're playing tennis or in any other game. So it seems like, for now, Djokovic is either have to get the vaccine or miss out on a chance to get another Grand Slam at the Australian Open. Peng Shuai continues to be censored in China. Peng Shuai is a former #1 ranked tennis player in the world by the WTA. She's undoubtedly a legend for her country, having won 22 different titles in her career. However, despite being initially celebrated in her home country, her career has faced a significant setback due to some shocking allegations that she made. Shuai alleged that Zhang Guoli, the former vice premier of China, had sexually assaulted her. Chinese government did not take these allegations lightly, but instead of punishing the former premier, they started to censor Shuai's allegations. Soon enough, Shuai had all but disappeared from public life in China. All these social media profiles were deleted, and people were seriously concerned for her well-being. The ITA had made limited contact with Shuai, but it seems like those encounters were likely staged by the Chinese government, even though Shuai tried to convince tennis officials that she was completely fine and has just taken a small social media break. At this point, fans don't know what to believe. Almost everyone is fearing that Shuai's career may be over from this point forward. WTA bans all events in China and Hong Kong. As a result of the social media backlash against the Chinese government in wake of Peng Shuai's censorship, the Women's Tennis Association announced that it would be suspending China from competing in their events, and it would ban all events from being held in the country. The suspension was announced in a statement by WTA Chairman and CEO Steve Simon. He said that Peng Shui's allegations needed to be taken seriously. Her message had to be heard, and all the players at WTA deserve nothing less. It seems like the WTA is not messing around with the whole Peng Shui incident. Simon also said that he cannot, under any circumstances, allow his players to compete in a country where one of his players were censored and intimidated. He said that everyone at the WTA is extremely concerned for Shui's safety, and he hopes that her voice is eventually heard across China. He added that the suspension would remain until China takes the necessary steps that the WTA has asked for. It really seems like for now this is the end of international women's tennis in China. It really came as a shock to a lot of fans because China has some of the best tennis players in the world and is financially powerful enough to suppress such moves with ease. Will Karolina Pliskova be making an appearance at the Australian Open? Fans were extremely excited to see Karolina Pliskova play an appearance at the Australian Open, considering major players like Serena Williams, Bianca Andreescu, and Novak Djokovic would be missing out on the event. Pliskova's appearance at the Australian Open was all but confirmed until it wasn't. On December 8, 2021, Pliskova was in the midst of a regular training session in Adelaide when disaster struck. Pliskova suffered a hand injury during training, and as a result, her appearance at the Open was up at stake. After some deliberation about the seriousness of her injury, Pliskova eventually announced that she would be missing the 2022 Australian Open because of her hand injury. The Open, set to take place on January 17th, has faced setback after setback, with players being injured, refusing to vaccinate, and simply being unable to make it in some cases. Olivia Gadecki, a rising teen star in tennis, was a wildcard option for the Open this year, but unfortunately, she won't be able to make it either as she has refused to be vaccinated. Ash Barty, the 2021 champion, even had a conversation with Gadecki about her decision, but Barty eventually decided against trying to convince the teenager to get the vaccine. Ash Barty, Dominic Thiem to headline Sydney Tennis Classic. Tennis in Australia is getting more events than ever despite the strict vaccine-related restrictions. A one-off event called the Sydney Tennis Classic is set to take place at the Sydney Olympic Park from January 9 to 15. The event will feature 19 of the top 25 ranked women in tennis, and it'll be headlined by none other than the 2021 ITA champion herself, Ash Barty. The event is meant to be a warm-up for the players who look to compete at the 2022 Australian Open, and some fans are pretty excited about some of the matchups. The men's side will be lackluster at the Sydney event, with only 4 of the top 20 tennis players in the world taking place at the event. Bernard Tomic to make his return soon. Bernard Tomic was an interesting prospect in tennis. He's currently ranked 254th in the world, far lower than his career high of 17th place. He's been inactive as a player since an injury he suffered at a match in Kazakhstan last September, but he's gearing up to make his comeback. 29-year-old player is now training regularly and has hired a fitness coach to help him back in shape. He said that he's determined to return to the top of the sport, although fans are a little less excited to see him back, keeping some of his past behavior in mind. That's a wrap for tennis news. Are you excited for the 2022 Australian Open? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.